Family Promise of Grayson County is a non-denominational, nonprofit organization serving families in transition. Its mission is intersecting faith and community to empower Grayson County families to end child homelessness by providing assistance to families facing or experiencing homelessness, and maybe you can help. Leigh Walker has been a social worker for over 40 years and the executive director of Family Promise of Grayson County since the organization began serving guests in 2018. Prior to that, she worked for the district courts doing home studies for adoptions and disputed custody cases. She, her husband Jim, and their two grown daughters, Sarah and Hannah, share a love of hiking, camping, reading, traveling, and playing games. Please welcome Leigh Walker.
One in 16 children will experience homelessness before they hit the first grade. That's not just nationally, that's locally. 2.5 million children will experience homelessness in our country this year. And that number goes up to 4 million if you include youth and young adults. Family Promise prevents and ends homelessness for families with children and helps them achieve sustainable independence through a community-based response. Family Promise began as a local response in a small community in New Jersey to respond to the crisis of family homelessness. Over 30 years later, we're now a national movement in 43 states with more than 200 affiliates. Grayson County is one affiliate. With more than 200,000 volunteers, Grayson County has more than 600 trained volunteers. And we nationally serve 250,000 people per year. The goal is to serve 1 million children by the year 2030. So when you think of homelessness, you think of someone who's homeless, what do you picture? Dirty, someone living under a bridge, someone living in an encampment, lying on a sidewalk, pushing the proverbial shopping cart. All the pictures that are on the front of your program today. Sometimes that's accurate, and we all know that. But sometimes it's families living in cars, living in motels, couch surfing. Sometimes it's our co-workers. It's Grayson County College students. It's the person who bagged your groceries. It's the person who served you your meal when you went out. Who are the homeless? And I use the air quotes because the homeless is not a term we use. We never want to identify people by their circumstances. Instead, we say a family that's facing homelessness or an individual that's experiencing homelessness. Doug suggested the term unhoused when I came in this morning. I know that's a popular term, but it's not always accurate. If you're couch surfing, you're under a roof, but you don't have a home. If you're living in a motel, you are under a roof, but it's not a home, as we define it for children. So, what are some of the causes of homelessness? Obviously, generational poverty. Sometimes it's illness or injury. We had a family come in prior to my meeting them. They were a 2-income family with children. They owned their home. They had 2 cars. I think they even owned a boat. Then they had a child who had multiple medical needs. So the mom went back and forth to Dallas, to the children's hospital there. Eventually, she missed too much work. She lost her job. Then, as life happens, one of their cars broke. And so they had to choose between going back and forth to Dallas Children's to be with their very young child, toddler, or be at work. They chose the child. So the dad ended up losing his job. Then they used their savings. Then they lost their cars. Then they lost their home, and they became homeless. Sometimes an injury just prevents someone from working, and you go through your savings pretty quickly. Sometimes it's death or divorce. We had a lady come to us, and she said, I have 3 children. One of the first questions we always ask is, where did you sleep last night? And she named an address that I know to be in an affluent neighborhood, so I was a little puzzled, and she saw the puzzlement on my face, and she explained, my husband is having an affair, and he gave me today to get out with the children. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. I have no job. I have no personal savings. I have no resume, and I have no place to go. In her case, thankfully, we were able to get her some transportation assistance to get her to some family so she could have the support that she needed. Sometimes the death of a breadwinner leaves the other person unable to meet the needs of rent, utilities, school supplies, food, all the things that we need in our daily lives. Sometimes domestic violence is a cause for homelessness. Sometimes people get out of the violent situation, but they have no place to go. Quick caveat, we don't take people that are in the midst of domestic violence. They need to go to the Women's Crisis Center, which is a secure and locked facility so that they can be safe. But once the perpetrator is out of the picture, either incarcerated or maybe the victim has moved here from another area, then absolutely we want to help that family. Sometimes, and this is a big reason in our area, becoming bigger daily, it's a lack of affordable housing. You've heard the news, how they're shutting down these dilapidated places, and everybody's oh so glad that finally something's being done. Unfortunately, the residents of those places have no place to go. So what are some things that we do? We at Family Promise in Grayson County have 3 main programs. The first is a rotation program in which the guests stay in local congregations. God bless you. In which the guests stay in local congregations. We provide the beds. We change them to each congregation on a weekly or sometimes every other week basis. The guests each have their own bedroom because we believe in family privacy. And the congregations provide meals and hospitality. We've had 34 families go through our rotation program. That's 79 children that have been in our rotation program that have been loved on by our community. We do have a day center. It's located over on East Houston Street at the corner of East Houston and Willow. Some of you may know it as Hope on Houston, a hub for nonprofits. Some of you who've been around a little longer may know it as the former Key Memorial Methodist Church, which went bankrupt a while back. We have 5 rooms there. We have a hygiene room that has a washer and dryer. It's important to have your clothes clean if you're a student or if you're applying for a job or if you're working in a job. We have 2 showers and a bathtub. We have a playroom for children. The playroom is used not only by the children who are currently in our rotation program, but also we offer a lot of classes. We offer financial literacy classes monthly. We offer home maintenance classes. It's actually taught by one of our former guests who's now a homeowner and doing very well. And during those classes, while the adults are taking the classes, the children can play in the playroom. So we are a hub for resource advocacy, and if the adults are finding out about new resources, then the children can play in the playroom. We also have a living room because not every day is a work day or a school day. Sometimes kids get sick and need a place to go when they're at home sick. Now, we don't keep kids. That's the parents' responsibility. But the parents and their children can be there in a comfortable setting. And during the weekends or days off, when people are not at work or at school or at daycare, they can be there and have a comfortable setting. We also have our office there. I live there a lot of the times, many hours a week. And we have a resource room that has computers on which people can update their resumes, look for benefits, apply for jobs, play Minecraft, whatever the age-appropriate response to a computer is. Another thing that we provide is an address. If you're experiencing homelessness and don't have an address, you can't enroll your kids in school. You can't get a new driver's license. You can't receive benefits. You can't even receive mail. And so many people use 901 East Houston Street as their address, and we just keep a file of all the mail, and we let people know when they get mail. A lot of people who are living on the street or living in encampments still use our address so that they can receive mail or so that they can apply for benefits. We also have a HOPE program. HOPE is an acronym that stands for Housing Opportunities to Prevent Evictions, because it's way less traumatic financially, emotionally, to never have to experience homelessness. So we pay rent, we pay utilities, we pay doctor's bill, we pay car bills, whatever the need is at the time to help somebody get over a financial hurdle. Now, we don't have unlimited resources. We're not state or federally funded. We rely on donations, and we have 2 fundraisers a year. And so we don't have unlimited resources. This is not a program for somebody who's $10,000 in debt and needs to get out of a hole. But it is a program for people who are experiencing situational homelessness, or are facing eviction, to keep them from becoming evicted. Last year, we helped 186 families through the HOPE program. That was 275 adults and almost 400 children that didn't have to become homeless or were prevented from homelessness. This year, we're already at that number, and it's only June. We also have a transitional living home. It was donated to us by Clayton Homes. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom manufactured home located in Knollwood. And it's a place for people who are trying to get back on their feet and maybe need more time to meet that financial goal. Maybe they're saving for a car or want to make a down payment on a home, or just need to accumulate first and last month's rent. And so that's a little longer term. A lot of times our families stay there 6 or 9 months until they're ready to move on to their own home. We provide a lot of community service. Over 300 people from 87 different families came to us needing hygiene supplies, food, clothing, diapers, wipe, shampoo, laundry soap, all the things that food stamps doesn't pay for and that are needed. We will provide any of those items to anybody who comes by. On average, about once a day, someone will come by. Last Friday, 7 different entities came by asking for help with things like shampoo, body soap, or food. And we have backpacks that we're happy to pass on that are full of things for people that might be living on the streets, regardless of whether they have children. And then we do referrals for families or individuals who may not have minor children in the home, who are elderly, who are single, who just need some assistance. We will help them find the assistance that they need. It may not be available in our community, but we'll help them get to where it is available. We had over 1,300 referrals last year, or right at 1,300 referrals last year, of individuals that needed assistance. 88% of the families that go through our rotation program, the one that goes from congregation to congregation, 88% exit to stable housing. And we maintain contact with those individuals or families so that they can continue to have the help that they need. So why is it so important to help children avoid or get out of homelessness? Well, because, as you may already know, children or people who are experiencing homelessness have an increased risk of academic failures, of disease, of mental health problems, of substance abuse, of unstable employment, of sexual abuse. For those of you who like numbers, listen up. Students are 8 to 9 times more likely to repeat a grade if they experience homelessness. They are 3 times more likely to be in special education. They are 7 times more likely to attempt suicide, and they are 4 times more likely to succeed. 47% of children who experience homelessness have anxiety, depression, or social withdrawal. Last year, 1 in 4 of the rental households here in our area, in Grayson County, which is the area that we serve, 1 in 4 spent more than half, more than 50% of their income just on rent and utilities. That's not sustainable, folks. It's just not. So, if you'd like to get involved, how can you? As individuals or as a collective group, you can donate. We always love the consumables, dish soap, laundry soap, diapers, wipes, those are like gold at our place, deodorant, shampoo, razors, conditioner, all the things that get used up by everybody who comes to our door. We also need money. Like I said, we're not state or federally funded. We rely on donations, both corporately and individually. You can become a sponsor for our cornhole tournament. That's one of our big fundraisers. It's coming up on September 21st in conjunction with the Sherman Arts Fest. There are all different levels of sponsorship, and every dollar goes to help folks. You can be a support congregation. Maybe your congregation, when we are staying at another congregation, maybe your congregation would like to bring meals or provide hospitality to the guests while they're at that congregation, because a lot of our congregations don't have enough volunteers, but are willing to open their doors to let someone come in and spend the night. You can be a host congregation, where we would come in and spend the night in your congregation, and if you didn't have enough volunteers, again, there are support congregations available to help with meals. We used to, prior to COVID, had overnight hosts. We no longer have that in most of our congregations. Maybe a fourth of our congregations still provide overnight hosts. It's not necessary. It's just to make people feel more comfortable while they're staying in a congregation. And then, of course, you can always be an office angel. We have people that come in and do filing, do data input, do cleaning. Those are my favorite. Help us to get organized. So there are many, many ways you can get involved. We had one lady after she went through training, because we do ask that anybody that's going to interact with our guests goes through a training. I do all the training so that everybody has a consistent experience. But we had one lady after the training, she goes, "I don't like kids." And I said, "That is okay." But she used to work in the food industry, and so she comes in once a week and checks all our donated canned goods to make sure that they're not expired. She organizes them. She puts them in groupings that are way easier when someone comes in, because I usually just say, go in there and pick out what you like. I'm not going to pick out, a sack full of food for somebody. I don't know what their likes and dislikes are. And that makes it easier if all the fruits are in one area, all the vegetables are in one area, etc. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come here today and tell you a little bit about us. I hope you learned something. If you have additional questions, please see me. I did bring some of our annual reports, copies of our annual reports from last year. And if you'd like them, I have them right here. Again, thank you.